Yes, we can. It was one of the most iconic campaign slogans in recent memory. David Axelrod is the man who wrote the tagline for then Illinois State Senator Barack Obama in his run for the United States Senate. Axelrod has known the president since 1992. He was in charge of messaging and strategy for the Senate and presidential campaigns. Axelrod spent 2 years as a senior advisor to the president in the White House. He then left to go to work on the re-election. He is the author of a new book out today. It is called Believer, My 40 Years in Politics. We're pleased to have him here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Let's talk about the president today first. There is some sense that he felt tied down and he couldn't go out and talk to the country in the midterms. But he has decided for the remaining 2 years he's going to be a bit unplugged. And he's going to tell the country really what he believes and really where he stands, regardless of the political consequences.
Yeah, I think that that's true. It's so funny because you'll all remember the day of the midterm elections, the night of the midterm elections, everybody was reading last rites over the Obama administration. He's probably had the best run he's had in years since that time, and part of it is his attitude is, I've got 2 years left to make the biggest difference I can, and I'm going to go out and do everything I can. And he has more of a bounce in his step than I've seen in a very long time.
So what might we expect from the Obama presidency for the next 2 years?
Well, I think you can see some of the things that he's going to push hard. He's going to see his immigration reform through. He's going to push on climate change. And I think he's very, Charlie, interested in these economic issues. This has been a main theme of his entire career, not just in politics, and that is how do you build an economy in which people who work hard can get ahead and people can aspire, strive, and get ahead. And we're losing that, and that's a fundamental challenge for this country.
That's what everybody's in pursuit of, including Hillary Clinton and others, as they try to gear up for the campaign.
That's true, but you know, he's been talking about this for years, and now you hear Republicans talking about it. Jeb Bush talking about income inequality, Mitt Romney talking about poverty, Marco Rubio talking about the middle class. The issues have shifted in his direction.
In your book, you tick off a laundry list of things that the president has accomplished, and you do it in great detail. That said, though, David, you talk about Michael Bloomberg, Barbara Streisand, Nancy Pelosi. We're always hammering you all about you're not getting your message across.
Yes.
You guys are not getting it right.
Right.
Why did that keep happening, do you think, time after time?
Well, first of all, I will say people were very generous with their advice when I was in the White House. But
don't you like unsolicited advice? Yes.
Was it welcome?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. Look, the reality is we were a triage unit when we arrived in the White House, and I described this in the book. We were told that there was a 1 in 3 chance of a second Great Depression. Every day we were taking the vital signs of the U.S. economy, hoping that we could keep it pumping, and we had to take a series of steps the president did that were as unpopular as they were necessary, and that distracted from our ability to deliver the kind of message we wanted. I regret that we used him too much as kind of an announcer for the government instead of the narrator of a larger theme. That was a mistake that I take some responsibility for.
You say working in the White House is like working in a submarine, hard to get a read on the pulse of America when you're looking at the country through a periscope.
Yeah.
So in some respects, maybe you all didn't get it right yourselves.
Well, look, we tried very hard, and, you know, I spent my days reading focus group reports and polling data and so on. But it is really hard, and I think it's Washington's problem generally. Gary Hart, the former senator, once told me that Washington's always the last to get the news. I think that was right because it's so insular, but the White House is worse.
But one of the criticisms is that guys like you, the political team, had too much influence, and a lot of the policy people complained about it all the time.
Well, you know, Charlie, actually what I remember is telling him that health care was going to be a real politically perilous thing to do, telling him that rescuing the auto industry was very unpopular. I didn't tell him recommending that he didn't do those things, but I had to give him that. And I always joke that I like him so much because he listened to me so little.
David, how would you describe the relationship between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama in the past? How do you think it's evolved? And if and when she gets involved in this race, when do you think she needs to declare?
Well, it's had some peaks and valleys, Jeff. Obviously, they were friends before they ran against each other. We had probably the most vigorous contest in the history of presidential nominations. It went through the entire calendar, and there were some raw feelings after that. The great story, one of the great stories of the administration was how close they grew, though, during that time that she was Secretary of State. I think the president has huge respect for her. I think she has huge respect for him, and I expect that, those who say they think she's going to run away from him, first of all, that's we saw in the midterms that's not a good strategy. But secondly, I don't think that's her inclination. They have a very good relationship.
She needs to separate a little bit, though, right?
She needs to define herself and where she wants to take the country in the future, and that's the important thing.
Do you think where he's going will push her to the left?
I don't think that it's a matter of being pushed to the left. It is a matter of focusing on this fundamental issue of building an economy in which we have a thriving middle class and people can get ahead.
What will he do after the election, after the 2016 election? There are those who say, and you're one of them, he ought to put the library in Chicago. But other people that I talk to say he wants to come with the family to live in New York City.
Well, I think those are two separate issues. Where the library goes, and I mean, the Clinton Library is in Arkansas. There's no question in my mind the library should go in Chicago. He's so much part of the fabric of that community, and he had such an interest in reviving the south side of Chicago. He can do so much with this one gesture that it's hard for me to believe that he'll pass on that opportunity.
What was his biggest failure?
Well, I think his biggest failure, everybody's strength is their weakness, Charlie. His greatest strength is that he viewed that winning elections was not the most important thing to him. Getting things done was the most important thing. His weakness was that for 80% of the people in Washington, winning elections is the most important thing, and he didn't always relate to the politicians as well as he could.
You write in the book that you don't miss the action, but you miss the main actor.
Yeah.
I get the impression you feel a little bit of pain about your relationship with Barack Obama today. You say, I email him, and sometimes he emails, and sometimes he doesn't. That there is a longing there. Is there?
Well, you know, when you're close to someone, as I was, as close to him as I was for years, and as you see him several times a day and talk several times a day, not just as as a boss to an advisor, but as friends, there was a withdrawal when I left the White House, and I was very depressed about it. You know, not hearing from him. I've gotten more accustomed to that, and the truth is, we've settled into a good rhythm. We talk from time to time. We email frequently, and you know, I feel of him that he's a friend, not just someone I worked for, and I'm glad that relationship has been.
I'd love to know what these emails are about.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Me
Very
too.
quickly, will we see you on another domestic campaign?
No.
David
What could I
Axelrod?
do to top this?
Well, but you're working in London.
Overseas.
That's not a domestic campaign.